this is your first time seeing Acumatica, you're probably going to notice a couple of things right off the bat. The first is that I'm just in a web browser on Acumatica. So this is a browser-based solution, which means whether you're using Firefox, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, or any other browser, Acumatica is going to support you with actionable information. Acumatica was built with a set of standards in mind, and because of that, we're able to use those standards across the platform in this cloud environment. One of those standards is responsive design, and I always like to show that off because whether you're on a desktop or maybe you're on a tablet, Acumatica is always going to resize to fit your screen and show you the information you need to know, never take away information because of the device you're using. So as you notice, I went from almost a desktop style view down to an iPad that might be in the warehouse, all the way down to actually a cell phone that just went to Acumatica.com. So really, you have ultimate flexibility in the devices that you're using. I think it's best before we kick off a long presentation into Acumatica to give you a nice overview of navigation within the program. So I'll start in the upper right-hand corner and kind of work my way around just for a couple of minutes here. The first thing I want to point out is I am logged in as the admin user. So everything you see today is not restricted on my account. However, Acumatica is a user and role-based system that respects security all throughout the software. So depending on what users and roles you have in the system, we're always going to show them what's important to them, and we don't need to show them irrelevant information inside of the system. As I move just to the left, you'll see Acumatica has a help button in the upper right of every screen. If you remember the old days where you could press F1 on any program to open help, you can think of that as being inside of Acumatica in the form of a help icon. The thing to remember about this help icon is that it is contextual based on the screen you're working with. So throughout today, we're going to be looking at sales orders, procurement, WMS. All of those topics have individual help windows to help you on those screens. The other thing to mention about help is it is written by documentation specialists, not the programmers. So you get great examples of how to use it in real-world business scenarios. As I move just to the left, you see Acumatica also has a company selector on this top bar. So Acumatica is a multi-tenant and multi-company environment. So since we're dealing with the multiple companies right now that are going into that merger, very nice to be able to go ahead and switch over to select what company you're going to be working with at the moment. And as you notice, as I toggle through my companies, Acumatica's interface is visualizing that in a representative way where you can quickly glance at the screen to figure out what company you're working in with default. As I move further over to the left, we run into Acumatica's universal search. You can think of this as Google search inside of your ERP. So this is one of the reasons we're ranked so high in usability, is you can jump right in. And again, we're working on something like sales orders today. I just start typing and Acumatica is pulling up all of the screens related to the topic I'm currently typing in. You'll notice Acumatica's universal search is also broken into multiple sections. Those multiple sections are in the form of tabs at the top of my screen. And right now we're currently looking in the menu items. However, I could certainly jump over to transactions and profiles and get some more information on, let's say, sales orders. Excuse me here. I'll show you that in just a little bit. And then help topics as well. So if I want some information on how to fill out 1099s inside of Acumatica, I could certainly type in 1099 to bring up those help topics. So just as we mentioned before, contextual help is over on the side, but sometimes you just have a general topic and don't know where to start. That's when you would pull up universal search. Acumatica also has a built-in file repository. We're going to look at that a little bit later as well when we jump into that field services aspect. We're going to be recording some documents inside of the field that will use Acumatica's built-in file repository. That file repository is completely managed. So you have your check-in, check-out, you have your different version controls, as well as everything is always respective of that security setup. So a full file repository. In the upper left-hand corner of my screen, you see your logo. Again, because we have those users' accounts that are all individualized and tailored to them, you will each have your own homepage. In this case, my homepage is a dashboard. If you wanted to set this as a new sales order or a report, you could certainly do that as well. Down the left-hand side of my page, we have different Acumatica workspaces. These are our menus, and this is how you can navigate throughout the system without using universal search. So just as we typed in sales order up above, I can also go into my sales order workspace and take some quick actions along the top, including creating a new sales order. I can look down below for things I might touch every week or every month. And then, of course, we can always unlock the full functionality of Acumatica inside of our menus as well. So I did notice after you navigate to a particular menu item, the center portion of your screen will change, and that's what we're going to work with all throughout today. In this particular view, we are looking at an Acumatica dashboard. And Acumatica's dashboards, as you can notice, are all built around action items. So we can see some open opportunities, overdue opportunities, and as I move my mouse around, you'll also notice that they are interactive as well. So I could certainly get more information just by hovering my mouse over these different areas in the system. One thing about Acumatica dashboards is they're all able to be tailored by the end user. So you do not need to call us if you'd like to add an additional widget or information tile to your dashboard. Just a couple of clicks and we can add new information, build entirely new dashboards, or tailor any of the included system dashboards to your needs. So completely flexible on that front. And that kind of speaks to one of Acumatica's architectural features, which is the idea of low code, no code. As much as possible, Acumatica tries to incorporate that philosophy into the different pages. And you're going to see that again all throughout today's presentation. Now, Acumatica dashboards also have the ability to be filtered in real time. So right now we're looking at a 360-degree view of all of our customers. However, if I have a customer that's calling in with an issue or a billing question, I could very quickly filter a dashboard to a specific customer as well. And you'll notice as soon as I do that, my entire dashboard is recalculating and displaying the information just for that AA customer. The next thing we'll do is look at Acumatica's drill down functionality on these dashboards to get more information on one of these tiles. So as we drill down on our dashboards, I can simply click on any of the information that was presented to me to open what Acumatica calls a generic inquiry. And this is that grid style or Excel style screen you're now seeing in front of you. And that's absolutely by design, again, to aid in that usability aspect. We design these screens with a very familiar look and feel. Of course, we do want to add some intelligence and features behind that. So you'll notice I do have the ability to move columns around very easily, as well as sort and filter. And you'll notice as I use my quick sort and filter feature, it is contextual based on the information that's in that column. So of course, if I'm looking at the total value of these opportunities, I'm getting sorts and filters that relate to numerical values. As I move across into my stages, I'm getting different information. Acumatica is automatically generating these filters based on the information in the columns. That is not additional setup that you need to put on your back. Acumatica is doing that for you. You'll also notice that Acumatica has conditional formatting ability in these generic inquiries as well. So you're seeing some records that are not assigned to a specific owner and contact, which are being highlighted, or our estimations that are past due. That is a general overview of Acumatica's generic inquiries, but because this is all around the system, we're going to continue to see this idea of the grid style screen, the generic inquiry. I'll take it one step further to show you some more functionality that's available on all of our grid style screens. The first of which is the ability to create quick and repeatable filters. So we talked about filters once before, but now I might want to see all of my records with the status of new. I can quickly filter that down and then save that view for later on. So this might be status of new. I can share this with the rest of my team or keep this view just for me. And at the top of my screen, we're seeing that tab idea once again. As I click OK, we're getting a new tab that appears where it has a status of new. Every time I come back to this screen, that tab is going to appear where I can quickly look down at all of my records with the status of new. So you'll also notice on the right-hand side of my screen, I actually have a little sidebar. At any point, I can expand that sidebar to give me a preview of the record that's displaying on the other side of my screen. So this is a nice little split screen view. And as I jump through my different records, the information on the right-hand side of the screen is updating very quickly. These sidebars do not just have to jump into a record. They can also open dashboards as well. So very easy to have dashboards related to a specific record or a specific customer, a specific vendor on your master list. The way I'll close up generic inquiries, again, we'll see them throughout the system, is that generic inquiries follow that principle we talked about earlier of low code, no code. So the reason they're called generic inquiries is they can be tailored to you as well. Again, this is not something you have to call us for and create a request for us to generate a new report or a new inquiry. This is something that you can call us for, but you can take on yourself. And typically the training goes very well on that. And in just a couple of hours, you can be building your own generic inquiries. As we kind of move forward here, I will point out that all of our generic inquiries can also export directly to Excel. And we'll be looking at this Excel tool later on as well. So just like we've seen before, I did use my sales order workspace in that quick action tile to go ahead and create a new sales order. And you can build this out very quickly, as well as seeing all the items you have in stock. So in this particular case, we're going to sell them a DIY site watch. So I'm going to go ahead and add one of those to my order. Acumatica does have the ability to go ahead and shop for rates directly inside of the system. So as I go ahead and refresh my rates at the top of my list, I will have you keep in mind that because this is a sample system, not all of my carriers ship to every address, but we do use Ship Engine or ShipStation to integrate into the shop for rate functionality. So if you are using UPS today, Ship Engine today, anything like that, would be able to bring that into Acumatica. And in this case, I will use my FedEx to go ahead and ship this out. Acumatica is going to be able to provide that rate. If we are logged into one of our accounts, it is going to be a rate that is specific to us, as well as the days it will spend in transit and that delivery date. This is great if you're on the phone with a customer and of course they're saying, when can I get it by? You never have to leave Acumatica to figure out when the expected delivery date for that order is. Down below, you noticed as I selected FedEx, Acumatica is searching our system to figure out what boxes are supported by that carrier to suggest that we pack this into a medium box. I'll just go ahead and accept that suggestion. And at this point, we can work on negotiation to go forward and discount this out at the line level. Maybe we have a promotion running, several stages we can take from this point. What I really want you to see is how we can get that out to the customer, how it's going to flow through the warehouse, and then how we're going to invoice the customer. So from this point, I'm going to go ahead and create my shipment, and it's going to ask me when I'm going to ship this out. I'm going to schedule this for today. At this point, I'm actually going to switch over to Acumatica's mobile app to take care of the shipment. What I will mention, and I'll always just turn on my camera for this piece so you can see what I'm working with and how we're going through this process together, is I'm just going to use my cell phone today. Of course, this also works on scanners. Why I'm showing you on a cell phone is because you'll be able to see it on my screen, so that way you can get a better idea of how this would work inside of the shop. So guys, welcome to the Acumatica app. You should be able to see it on my screen now. Of course, Acumatica is up to date with that latest technology. So you're seeing our Face ID logo down at the bottom. For those of you that have an iPhone, you probably recognize the feature of being able to quickly sign in with your face and work on anything inside of the Acumatica app. So today, like I said, we're going to be shipping out this order. So what I'm going to do very quickly is actually print out my pick list so you can see what I should be going down in my process. And in this case, we are going to ship out that SiteWatch Express. Very easy to work through this. I'll go down inside of my app and you can see all of the Acumatica functionality inside their mobile app. But what I want today is going to be that warehouse management icon. So I'll click that warehouse management icon and I can actually go directly to pick, pack, and ship. And from this point forward, it's going to be simply following the instructions that Acumatica is providing to me to get this picked, packed, and shipped. So in this case, it's asking me to go ahead and scan my shipment number. Of course, I would be doing this on the barcode scanner I just showed you before. And then scan the location that I'm going to be picking the item from. I'll go ahead and scan that particular item. And then I would scan the lot and serial number from the box. In this case, I'm going to type this in so that way we can keep moving here. However, this would be the serial number that you printed on the box, or you could have them manually enter this information. So I'll go ahead and scan that serial number. And you'll notice Acumatica is telling me at the top that that is the last line in this shipment, so it has been picked. I can use my options down below to go ahead and review what I have inside of this order. And in this case, I just have one item, that SiteWatch Express. And then if everything looks correct, I can go ahead and confirm my shipment. So I'll click my icon down at the bottom and confirm that shipment. You'll notice Acumatica is going to update that on the desktop as well and give me that confirmation. So the shipment has been successfully confirmed. As I back out to my shipments page, it's going to say that we have confirmed this shipment and we can go ahead to prepare that invoice. What I'll mention is I'm showing you the very manual process today of working through these different steps. In a more traditional setting, this is going to take much longer, but it's also going to be taken by many different departments and divisions who will all have a work list that they'll be pulling items from. They'll have a dashboard that'll have these shipments appearing. So they will go through either an automated process or a process that the system is prompting. So what I mean by that is the warehouse worker would be working off of a dashboard or a work list, whereas we could process the invoices automatically and in batch as soon as the shipment has gone out. So in this case, I'll go ahead and prepare this invoice to walk you through this sales to payment process. And Acumatica will pull open our invoice and we can go ahead and take a look. And no matter what payment method the customer accepts, very easy to actually automatically apply this to the documents on their account. So you'll notice we do have the ability to automatically apply payments to all of the invoices in the system. If they have invoices open, multiple invoices open, we're going to apply that payment to the oldest first. So we do have the ability to automatically process those payments throughout Acumatica. Again, we'll be jumping into AR in more depth later on, but I just wanted you to see that end-to-end process as far as sales order, shipment, invoice, payment. What I'd like to go ahead and do next is dive a little bit deeper into that inventory item we were working with. So in this case, I'll go ahead and pull up that sales order we were looking at just before and show you how Acumatica can drill down on the document level as well. So right before we jumped over, we were going to talk about the item master inside of Acumatica. And to do that, I actually want to show you how all of our documents are going to have that drill down functionality that I've been mentioning throughout today's presentation. So you'll notice that down below under our SiteWatch Express DIY, the inventory ID is highlighted in blue. And when something is highlighted in blue in Acumatica, that's Acumatica's way of saying, I can take you there, just like a hyperlink. So that's going to pull us into Acumatica's item master. And you're going to start seeing some things that are very familiar already with our tabs across the top of the page that talk about different areas of Acumatica. Now, because Acumatica is storing so much data about our inventory items in order to run our inquiries and our reports and our dashboards, it needs information to work from. Acumatica has a great way of storing that information where you can repeatedly create inventory items very easily in the form of item classes. Anytime you hear that word class in Acumatica, you can think of category. The difference between an item class and an item category is a class has intelligence behind it. So it's going to let you sort, filter, have default settings all throughout the system. If we do have any serialized items, Acumatica can accommodate that as well. And you're seeing that word class again, which means there is intelligence behind our lot and serial numbers. And that intelligence comes in the form of when that serial number is issued, how it's calculated, or whether it's entered manually. We also have the ability to run physical inventory. So we're going to be talking a lot today about Acumatica's warehouse features. That's one of their warehouse management features, is their ability to manage inventory. And when we get into that cycle counting, when we get into the physical inventory side of things, I want you to kind of reach back to this point in the presentation where Acumatica is actually defining this item into a particular cycle or an ABC code or a movement class. Acumatica is also providing information to us through the form of this inventory document. So on the right-hand side of my screen, you can see our cost statistics. What's the last cost we have for this item, whether it's purchased, or what's the combination cost of all of our assembled components into this item? Acumatica is going to calculate that. So not only are you inputting information to the item master, you're actually receiving information as well. A good point to make to that extent is your vendors tab, where you're listing what vendors you can purchase this item from, if they have any specific requirements, what was the last price we received from this vendor. So lots to look at on our vendors section inside of an inventory master. One great thing about Acumatica is you do have the ability to add in vendors to this document to say this is available to purchase from this vendor, as well as this being an intelligent list. So if a purchasing manager goes ahead and purchases our SiteWatch Express from a particular vendor and we receive that item, then it was a valid order and this list will be updated automatically. So saving quite a bit of time building out this inventory master with that intelligence. Of course, Acumatica can handle tailored fields. So if you have specific information you'd like to place inside of an inventory master, we can handle that in the form of attributes and then pull that attribute all over the system. So if you want to sort your items by the square footage it takes up for a big skid, or if we want to have the quality of the camera, so 1080p or 4K cameras, that can all be attributes we record inside of the system in order to help not only our sales team out, but our inventory team, our warehousing team, our purchasing team can all use that for their job roles. So we also have the ability to cross-reference our items. Oftentimes, we will have a PO come in and the customer will be using their part number for our item rather than our part number. Acumatica can handle this inside of the inventory master as well. So as you notice, we might have a customer part number, and that customer only ever orders one security camera. They always order our SiteWatch Express. So in their system, they just have their inventory code or their part number as security cam. Well, Acumatica is going to recognize that and know what they mean when they submit a PO for a security cam. They're going to know that they want the SiteWatch Express DIY. So, of course, there are plenty of alternate types that we can go into as far as vendor part numbers, customer part numbers, global part numbers, and even barcodes for specific units of measure. In that case, you might want to assign a specific barcode to a box or a pallet of items, and Acumatica will be able to tie that barcode to that specific unit of measure. So in that way, your warehouse employees will only have to scan one time if they're moving an entire box or an entire pallet of the same item. Acumatica also has intelligent replenishment, which means we're able to look at certain factors inside of the system and suggest reordering of an item. So in this case, we might have an item that we purchased from a vendor, and we want Acumatica to look at the last 6 months to figure out when our reorder point would be in order to meet a service level of 84%, which is to state that 84% of the time we received orders in the last 6 months, we wish it was in stock. So Acumatica has some intelligence to continually analyze those reorder points through intelligent replenishment. Of course, as we work through our records today, you do have the ability to add notes and files to every single area in the system. So as we go through, I will point that out, but you will start to recognize our notes and files button at the top of all of our transactional documents, sales orders, purchase orders, inventory items, so on and so forth, in order to tie back to that master file repository. So now we've talked about how we would sell an item, how we would deliver that item, but we also want to look at how we could purchase an item. So we've talked about getting inventory out of the system in the form of a sales order and a shipment. Now we can talk about how to get inventory into the system. And again, from this point, you're going to start to see where Acumatica really shines on that usability space, because you're going to start to recognize these screens. So we're going to have that very familiar layout with our tabs in the center of the page, the vendor information at the top, and the lines down below. So even with just a few seconds here, I could very quickly go ahead and reorder our item that we're working with today, which is that SiteWatch Express. So again, very similar process as far as that sales orders and purchase orders side of things, absolutely by design. We also have multiple purchase order and sales order types. So as we're looking at a purchase order, we of course have the ability to have a normal purchase order where they're shipping it directly to our warehouse. We also have the ability for drop ships where they're shipping directly to the customer, as well as blankets. So if they say, well, we have a blanket PO for this particular item, then we can create releases off of that item. In this case, I will move forward and show you a little bit on how Acumatica handles purchase order receipts. Again, with the same process in mind, where this is going to be a very manual process that can become more automated over time. And you saw me click a button there just for one moment. I want to show you what button I clicked, which as soon as I say that I've finished entering the information on my purchase order, Acumatica has PO approvals taking place, where we can actually send that to a particular person and assign it for approval. That's going to be listed down below. So this was assigned to Lila in finance to go ahead and approve. I will just point out, because I'm the admin user today and it is set up in the system where admin users can approve any purchase order, I can approve this purchase order myself. So after we hit that workflow stage of approval, we can go ahead and send this out directly to our vendor. So Acumatica does have the ability to connect to your email systems, so it can send out this information directly from inside of Acumatica. What that is going to do is go ahead and send that out. And of course, I have email processing turned off in my system today, but we could send that out directly and then view any file attachments that went with it. When the shipment arrives, they could enter this receipt from the actual browser interface or from the mobile app. Because we've seen that mobile app process already, this time I want to give you an idea of how that would work inside of a workstation that's on the receiving dock inside of the warehouse. They could, of course, enter that reference number that appeared on the shipping document or an invoice number inside of the system so that Acumatica can automatically create our bill for us, or we can wait until that company invoices us and create that bill at a later date as well. As we go through, Acumatica does support partial receipts and leaves that document where you can additionally receive other shipments, or you can go ahead and revise your PO and have a new invoice sent out for a partial receipt that you do not plan on receiving the remaining quantity for. So Acumatica will handle all aspects of that purchase receipt. Again, because this is going to be a system where you enter your data once and there's not repetitive data entry, you're seeing that carry through. And Acumatica realized that we were supposed to receive one of that SiteWatch Express from our purchase order. So that would put it directly into the system. Because this is assigned to a particular location by default, Acumatica is going to add inventory into that location. And then we're going to display our updated inventory count down below. Of course, if you did want your warehouse employees manually scanning that location or entering that location to prevent errors on that aspect, we could certainly set up the system in the inventory master that we were looking at just a second ago to not have some defaults as far as where you're going to receive. That's going to force your employees to actually enter the location they're receiving into. Any questions on that purchase receipt aspect and how we can create a purchase order and then receive that purchase order? When we are sending anything out from Acumatica, it's stored in multiple places. What I'd like to actually show you is two of those places right now. The first is going to be your activities panel up at the upper right of every screen. This is going to show you activities specifically related to that document. So if I am on a purchase order or a purchase receipt, I will see all of the information, including emails that have gone to or from the vendor. We also have the ability to keep that activities functionality inside of our master vendor record. So as I go into this master vendor record, you're going to see that word activities down below, and we'll see all of the activities built out. Let me see if I can find you an example of what that would look like. There we go. So now that we've looked a little bit at the purchasing side and a little bit at the sales side, I want to expand just for a moment into kind of case management, support management, and what happens to that original order that we sent out of that SiteWatch Express DIY that we sent out to our customer Ulta Ace. What happens if she receives it and there's some sort of issue and they need to open a case inside of Acumatica? Acumatica actually has a customer portal to help manage that, and they would be given their own URL to go to enter cases into your system. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and head to the portal we'll use for this presentation, which in this case, I just have to add portal onto the end of my address. And there's actually, inside of Acumatica, there's going to be a portion where I cannot be logged in as an employee and a customer at the same time, so you will notice a little bit of a delay here. You would not experience this delay if you were either the employee or the customer. So we'll open up that system in just a second. And what that will do is roll into our Acumatica Cases module. Inside of Acumatica Cases, we can handle different situations. And the best part about Acumatica Cases is it is extremely tailored to your business and what you need. So they're going to have a very similar login page. In this case, we're just going to log in as our portal user. And you'll notice, again, a very familiar interface that's easy to pick up on and easy to work through as a completely new user who's never seen the system before. Part of that is this welcome page that's giving you some instructions on how to work through the portal. But in our case, we're going to jump right in and open a new support case. So I'll go ahead and open a new case. And this is completely, again, tailored to what you need and what you collect when a new case comes in. So I will say that if you do have contracts open with your customer, that we'll jump into it in just a little bit, we can actually tie a support case back to a customer's contract. So if they do have an issue that relates to one of our SaaS systems, they could have allocations for support built in. But we might just have a case that's relating to product support, and they might have just received an item, and that could have been the site watch we've been working with, that the motor's not working for the pan tilt zoom on the actual camera. So we received the item, let me correct my spelling here, and the motor is not running. Humming noise. Okay. So we would enter that information, more details about the case, and then we could add any additional criteria we'd like the customer to fill out. And of course, we can require this criteria as well. So the product needing support was that Site Watch Express DIY, and the product purchase date was today. So very easy to fill that information out as a customer and then track that case. So as soon as it's submitted, they're getting some information back to them, including that all importance activities tab, so they can track where this is going in the process. And as activities are entered, we have the ability to mark those as internal activities and external activities. Now, as I mentioned, we created this case on the customer portal. It's running into the employee portal. And I mentioned at the very beginning, this whole case management is very tailored to what your business needs. So I'll give you a very high level approach of how this workflow could take place. In which case I would see a new case that came into the system. I might click our quick action at the top to take this case. And although I have not mentioned it before, it will become important in the next maybe 30, 45 minutes here. The admin user's name is Maxwell Baker. So as soon as I selected take case, it assigned it to my employee profile, who is Maxwell Baker. From this point, I would like to open that case. I might want to say what's going on. I'm working on it to figure out what we're going to do. And then I might want to have an automatic email go out to the customer to say, we've received your case and we're working on it. Or I might want to send out a manual email as well, so I could very quickly go into my activities. It's going to automatically recommend, suggest who that customer is. So that's who we're going to send this email to. And I can very quickly type out that we've received your case and we are working on the issue. Go ahead and send that out. And because Acumatica, again, is connected to your email system, we're able to send that out directly to the customer and create that running list of activities. If we do have an internal conversation, I can add information in that as well. So I could do, we can escalate it to a higher technician to try to resolve, or we might want to go out on site to solve this issue. So in that case, we would go ahead and create a service order. And inside of the service order, we might want to go out and repair this unit. And again, I can assign this directly to an employee to go take care of. But in a second, I'll show you how we can actually view which employee is best for this situation. So in this case, I might have a ticket come in for that pan tilt zoom motor not working. And I would go ahead and create a service order directly from inside of Acumatica, inside of that case management, where I can go ahead and build out some time to go repair that unit. So that might be a quick service call that we would go out for a hardware repair. And of course, Acumatica is going to have a default, whether we're going to bill based on time or flat rate, that can be overridden with the correct permissions. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and have this to be a flat rate service. And because that customer has purchased this item from us before, and we shipped it out at the very beginning of our process, we are able to see that equipment inside of the system. So in this case, we'll go ahead and select that equipment that we'll be working on. And then we can even go down to the lower level if we so choose to say we're going to be working on the motor on this particular piece of equipment. So we can actually get down to the component level to start tracking how our items are progressing. Give me just a second here where we select our motor and we actually have that serial number logged inside of the system as well. So I select that down below. Now I mentioned I did not schedule that to a particular technician right away because I did not know who would be best for this job. Acumatica has a tool to help us find what is the best person for this job in the form of a calendar. So inside of Acumatica's calendar, I can go ahead and pull up all of my different technicians, all of my different orders, and Acumatica is going to automatically filter down this list to the record we were working on just a second ago of that service order to go repair that motor. And because I'm the current user in the system, I'm appearing at the top of our list. Depending on how many users we have access to, we could have several different technicians appear on our top line of our calendar. We could look at our schedules across the board, and then we could see important information about that particular employee. So if I needed to give them a quick call to make sure they were able to take this case, I could simply give them a call. I can see when they start for the day. So this particular employee, myself, Maxwell Baker, starts at 9 a.m. In my system, I'm set to a different time zone than you are, so it's 12:35 in my system. And Acumatica is displaying that green line down below. And then what time do they stop working at the end of the day? So 5 o'clock. It's then very easy to go ahead and drag over what we were working on directly, and we're going to schedule it for just about right now as we go ahead and start working through this case. So as we work through this case, I want you to keep in mind that not only does this work for repairs, this same process can work for installations as well. So just as we close out the schedule board, Acumatica's schedule board allows you to, again, take actions. So it's not just a display panel. We could very quickly come in here and reschedule the appointment to be longer. We could have this where we need to have it validated by a dispatcher or confirmed by a customer. So lots of different flexibility inside of this calendar to start managing that schedule. What's most important to realize at this point is we do have something on our schedule for Maxwell Baker, who is my user. And we're actually going to switch over to mobile to show a little bit more of how that field service clock in, clock out costing works. So we have this appointment scheduled. And what I'm going to do is pull back over that screen that we were looking at a few minutes ago onto the mobile app. So just like before, I'm using my phone. This could be literally a phone. We have iOS, Android apps. It could also be a tablet, a scanner, you name it, right? So I will kind of scroll down here, and now we're taking a different role in where we are a service technician who's looking at our appointments for the day. So I'll jump into that appointment list, and all of a sudden I have a new appointment appear. This can also come in as a notification to our employees, just like you see a text message notification as well. An email is all supported. But what I'd like to look at is my appointment that's starting at 3 o'clock p.m., which is right now for our customer. So I'll go ahead and tap that appointment, which is going to open up that record on my mobile app. It's going to pull over all of the information we've supplied so far, so that way we can start working on the job. So you'll notice right at the top of my page, we have a new appointment that we need to go to, and we do have the ability to view this on a map from a technician's perspective. So I'll simply click View on Map, and Acumatica will use Google Maps that's installed on my phone to show me exactly where I need to go. Maybe I want to jump into Street View to figure out where I'm going to service this piece of equipment, so I can get that information, and then jump back over to Acumatica. Inside of Acumatica, I can go to my Actions button down below and go ahead and start my travel time. So Acumatica does have the ability to go ahead and start travel time as well. Now, as soon as I start that travel time, Acumatica is going to ask me, am I going to start travel for just myself, or do I have a crew that's working with me? And in this case, I'm just working by myself, so I'm going to go ahead and start my travel time only. Acumatica is going to start clocking that time, and a couple of things are going to happen. First of all, I can look through my particular details of this appointment. So I know that I'm going to be doing a hardware repair service. And of course, a line was added for that labor and travel fee. Depending on whether you're charging that time to get to the site, would be whether you bill for that or not, but that is going to start accumulating the cost for this employee and their time. As I jump over, I think about a minute has gone by, so I'm going to go ahead and actually arrive on site. So I'm going to arrive on site and my appointment will automatically start. So as I jump into the job, we're going to say that just I arrived, not the whole crew. And Acumatica is automatically going to start that clock time on the job. And you'll notice my labor travel line is now saying complete, and my repair work is now saying in process. You do have the ability to start that outside of travel if you would like to separate the two tasks. Typically, when someone stops traveling, they're going to start working. So we have that as a workflow inside of our system to go ahead and start the job. Of course, if this employee does decide to go on a break while they're there or go grab some lunch, Acumatica does have the ability to go ahead and pause that appointment if needed. In this case, we're going to get right to work reviewing that piece of equipment and logging what we think went wrong. So I could start typing my notes directly into this order. So maybe it was a motor that was dead on arrival. And of course, I could use my phone feature as well to say, arrived on site, checked the voltage inside of the motor, not receiving any voltage, going to replace with a unit on my truck. Very quickly able to add a lot of notes, and we see if they have the capability to kind of dictate that into the app, they start giving much more detailed notes on what went wrong. And as you noticed, I did find that motor was dead on arrival, and they just purchased it from us today. So clearly there was something that went wrong. I'll jump over to my details tab, and I can quickly add an item directly from my truck. So I'm going to grab an inventory item off my truck for that motor. And it's going to be that SiteWatch pan tilt zoom motor, which I'll go down, and I am going to replace it on that piece of equipment that we're working on today. And I'm going to replace that motor. So I'm just going through and selecting exactly what I'm replacing and what I'm replacing it with. The advantage of that is we can come in here and see if this motor has been replaced 3 or 4 times. We can run inquiries or dashboards on units that have the same component failing. It really goes forward to provide that more information. Of course, I'll jump under billing information, and I can provide this as a free item to make sure they're not charged for it. Of course, we will still accumulate the cost that it's going to take to repair this unit. I'll jump back in, and we're building out this service order together where we have that hardware repair service, our travel, and then that motor that we took off of the truck. And I don't think I showed you where we can actually pull that off of a truck itself. So I can actually pull that off of the truck. Perfect. I go through and I go ahead and I fix the motor. I put it back together, and we're going to go ahead and want a picture of that completed job. So just like in the rest of Acumatica, I can go down to my files button down below and go ahead and take a photo of my work to say that we got it back up and it's working well now. If I need to, I can go ahead and show the customer the document and then have them sign off that it was complete. So I'll add my signature into the file and mark that we don't need to come back. We don't need to schedule another appointment because I have completed or finished the job. At this point, I can stop clocking my time for this particular job by clicking the complete button, and then send out this report with the signature and all the information we provided today directly to the customer from the app as well. So I might want to go ahead and email that signed appointment confirmation. From that point, I can jump back over to the desktop. The field work has been completed, and I can go ahead and actually look at my status of my order, and it is marked as completed, and it does have those 3 items down below. So very quick to work that out. We do have our information at the top as far as what it cost us, what the billable total was, and then we can even go into more in depth to figure out more information about the exact appointment and again, how much was billable, how much is paid, unpaid, and all of our information. So it only took 1 appointment to complete this particular task. And of course, that appointment has the notes that we recorded, as well as that file of the document. And that's going to follow a very similar process for installation as well. So I will show you how to kick that off, but I will not make you sit through the entire process once again. So if we did happen to sell an item with an install, we can actually kick off that appointment from directly inside of the sales order as well. So I mentioned today we would be working with multiple different types of sales orders. Maybe they're going to order that SiteWatch Express, but they don't really agree with the whole DIY aspect. They're going to want you to come out and install this piece of equipment. So we'll have our 2020 installation service. Of course, this can be flat rate or it can be by the hour as well. And we can say we need to schedule that service. Inside of Acumatica, if you remember, we kicked off the repair workflow from a case that was entered on the portal. Now we can kick off the workflow from an actual sales order. So very quickly, we can jump back into that service order mentality. And in this case, we would not be doing a repair, we would be doing an install. So that would kick us back into the same process we just went through as far as working through our details, making sure the appointment was complete, and taking the information, getting the signature, everything we just saw. So you did notice that we were working on a particular piece of equipment when we were on site. We were working on a particular SiteWatch. We were working on a particular motor. Acumatica is keeping all of that information available to us in our equipment list. So we could go through and see all of the equipment that we have out in the field today, what has been replaced, what is still brand new. And we worked on that SiteWatch Express. As we go through, we're able to track the information, like when it was installed, when it was sold, the different components that we have available to us. Right now, I do not have these items serialized, so it's saying, hey, just to let you know, we are going to require a serial number if you want to have our warranty. So if I had a serial number for these items, then I would scan that serial or enter serial number or enter it as we go through to go ahead and say that all of these serial numbers are now warranted for 1 year by our company. We could additionally add a vendor warranty as well. So not only are we just keeping track of the equipment, we're keeping track of all of the information that has comprised this equipment. So the actual logic board, the antenna, the camera, the housing, when it was purchased, and from there forward, it's going to be tailored to you on what additional information you'd like to record about your equipment.